The Helio sector was where dreams went to die. Maya Reynolds knew this better than most as she guided her salvage ship, the Starcatcher, through the debris field of yet another abandoned research station. The sector had boomed during the corporate expansion era, but now it was just another graveyard of failed ambitions and broken promises. Maya's deep brown eyes scanned the sensor readings, her weathered hands steady on the controls. After 15 years of military service and another 5 running salvage, she thought she'd seen everything the void had to offer. She was wrong. "That's odd," she muttered, adjusting the scanner's frequency. The station's power readings didn't match its abandoned status. Somewhere in that lifeless hull, something was still running. The Starcatcher's floodlights illuminated the station's exterior, revealing the faded logo of Nexus Dynamics, one of the megacorporations that had vanished during the economic collapse. Maya had seen plenty of their abandoned facilities before, but this one was different. The hull wasn't as deteriorated as it should have been. She docked at an emergency airlock, the magnetic clamps engaging with a dull thud that echoed through her ship's hull. After checking her environment suit and weapon, she stepped into the airlock. "Computer, maintain ship readiness. Alert me to any approaching vessels." The station's interior was dark but not completely powerless. Emergency lights still functioned in some sections, casting eerie blue shadows along the corridors. Maya's boots left prints in the thick dust as she moved deeper into the facility, her helmet lights cutting through the darkness. She followed the power readings to a sealed section of the station. The security panel beside the door still functioned, its red light a warning in the darkness. Maya pulled out her bypass unit, a piece of equipment that had paid for itself 100 times over in her salvage work. The door slid open with a pressurized hiss, revealing a sight that made her blood run cold. The room was a laboratory, but not the kind used for routine research. Containment cells lined the walls, most empty, but one. A soft purple glow emanated from the last cell. Inside, curled in a corner, was a figure that was decidedly not human. Delicate crystalline patterns traced across skin the color of twilight. The being looked up as Maya approached, revealing eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies within them. Maya's hand moved to her weapon, but something stopped her. The being's eyes held no malice, only fear and a deep, crushing exhaustion. Maya had seen that look before, in the eyes of prisoners of war during her military days. "I'm not going to hurt you," Maya said, knowing her words might not be understood but hoping her tone would convey her intent. "I'm here to help." The being uncurled slightly, revealing restraints that pulsed with energy. Maya's scanner identified them as neural suppressors, technology that was supposed to have been banned after the neural wars. "They're coming back," the being spoke in perfect standard, its voice carrying an ethereal quality that seemed to echo in Maya's mind. "The scientists. They always come back." Maya checked her scanner again. No other life signs on the station, but that could change. She had to make a decision fast. The salvage operator in her said to leave, this was way above her pay grade. But the soldier in her, the one who had sworn to protect, wouldn't let her walk away. "Not this time," Maya said, pulling out her bypass unit again. "What's your name?" "Kira," the being replied, watching as Maya worked on the cell's control panel. "They call me Subject K-137, but, my name is Kira." The cell door opened with a soft click. Maya helped Kira stand, noting how the alien's crystalline patterns seemed to pulse with each movement. "I'm Maya. And we're getting out of here." A distant clang echoed through the station. Maya's comm unit buzzed with an alert from her ship's computer. A vessel was approaching, much larger than the Starcatcher. "They're early," Kira whispered, fear creeping back into her voice. Maya checked her weapon and smiled grimly. "Then we better move fast. Hope you're ready for a run." The rescue had seemed simple enough. But as alarms began to blare throughout the station and heavy footsteps echoed down distant corridors, Maya realized this was just the beginning. She had found something she wasn't supposed to find, and someone was willing to kill to keep it secret. The real question was, how far was she willing to go to protect a stranger who wasn't even human? As she looked at Kira's determined face, Maya knew the answer. As far as it takes. Red emergency lights bathed the station's corridors in a bloody glow as Maya and Kira raced through the maze-like structure. Maya's military training kicked in automatically: keep moving, stay aware, protect the objective. Except this time, the objective wasn't some strategic target. It was the terrified alien running beside her. 2 more intersections to the docking bay, Maya said, checking her wrist display. The heavy footsteps behind them were getting closer. Security forces, probably corporate mercenaries, were closing in. Kira stumbled, her crystalline patterns flickering weakly. The neural suppressors were still affecting her, making each step a struggle. Maya caught her before she fell, supporting her weight. I can't, Kira gasped. They're too close. You should. Don't even think about it, Maya cut her off. We're both getting out of here. A plasma bolt sizzled past them, leaving a scorched mark on the wall. Maya spun, pushing Kira behind her as she returned fire. Her military-grade pistol wasn't fancy, but it was reliable. 2 quick shots sent their pursuers diving for cover. They reached the first intersection, but Maya pulled them to a stop before turning the corner. Her instincts screamed danger. She pulled out a small mirror from her utility belt, carefully angling it around the corner. More mercenaries, waiting in ambush. They're boxing us in, Maya muttered. This was bad. Very bad. Kira's eyes suddenly widened. The suppressors, they're weakening. Her voice had an odd echo to it, like multiple voices speaking just slightly out of sync. The crystalline patterns on her skin began to pulse with increasing intensity. Maya felt something brush against her mind, a presence, alien but somehow comforting. I can help, Kira said. But you'll have to trust me. And, it might be frightening. A door behind them burst open, more mercenaries pouring through. They were out of options. Maya nodded. Do it. Kira's eyes blazed with inner light. The neural suppressors sparked and shattered, falling useless to the floor. The air itself seemed to vibrate with potential energy. Then Maya felt it, power flowing through her mind, enhancing her senses, speeding up her reactions. The world seemed to slow down around her. Now. Kira's voice echoed in her mind. Maya moved with impossible speed, her enhanced reactions making the mercenaries seem like they were underwater. Her shots found gaps in armor with surgical precision. She was aware of everything, the position of every enemy, the structural weak points in the walls, the exact distance to their escape route. But it wasn't just combat awareness. She could feel Kira's memories bleeding through their connection, glimpses of a crystal city on a world with 3 moons, the terror of being captured, endless days of experiments as scientists tried to understand and weaponize her species' abilities. They fought their way through the intersection, Maya's enhanced abilities and Kira's telekinetic powers forming a devastating combination. But Maya could feel the strain it was putting on her partner. Whatever Kira was doing, she couldn't maintain it for long. They reached the final corridor to the docking bay. Maya's ship was just ahead, its airlock still sealed and secure. But between them and freedom stood a wall of mercenaries, led by a figure in black corporate armor. Impressive display, the leader said, his voice modulated through his helmet. But this ends now. The asset belongs to Nexus Dynamics. Stand down, and you might survive this. Maya felt Kira's terror spike through their mental link. The alien's power was fading, the strain of maintaining their connection taking its toll. They had seconds at most before the enhancement wore off. Last chance, the corporate commander warned. The asset is too valuable to lose. Stand down. Maya's mind raced. The mental enhancement was fading, but she could still feel Kira's presence, could still sense the layout of the station through their shared awareness. Including the plasma conduits running through the walls. "You're right about one thing," Maya said, adjusting her aim slightly. "This ends now." She fired 3 precise shots, not at the mercenaries, but at the wall behind them. The plasma conduit exploded, filling the corridor with superheated gas. The mercenaries scattered, their formation breaking. In that moment of chaos, Maya grabbed Kira and ran. They reached the airlock just as the last of their mental connection faded. Maya's head spun as her perception returned to normal, but her muscle memory took over. She slammed the airlock controls, sealing them inside the Starcatcher. "Hold on!" Maya shouted, rushing to the cockpit. The ship's engines were already hot, ready for emergency departure. She hit the release controls, and the Starcatcher broke free from the station. But as they pulled away, Maya's sensors lit up with multiple warnings. 3 corporate patrol ships were emerging from hyperspace. The Starcatcher was fast, but it wasn't built for combat. They weren't free yet. Maya looked at Kira, who had collapsed into the co-pilot seat, exhausted but still conscious. "I hope you have more tricks up your sleeve, because we're going to need them." Kira managed a weak smile. "I think I might have 1 or 2 left." Maya grinned back, plotting an escape vector. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and running low on options. Just another day in the Helios sector. But this time, she wasn't fighting for salvage or credits. She was fighting for something far more valuable, freedom. Space combat was like dancing with death, and right now, Maya Reynolds was leading. The Starcatcher corkscrewed through a field of stellar debris, its engines screaming in protest as 3 Nexus Dynamics patrol ships gave chase. Warning lights flashed across her console. The ship wasn't meant for this kind of stress. "They're charging weapons," Kira warned, her twilight-colored hands gripping the co-pilot seat. Her crystalline patterns pulsed weakly, still recovering from their mental link during the station escape. Ma yanked the controls hard, sending them into a tight spiral around a massive piece of derelict hull. A barrage of plasma fire lit up the void where they'd been seconds before. "Can you do that mind thing again? Could use the enhanced reflexes right about now." Kira shook her head, pain evident in her galaxy-filled eyes. "Not yet. The neural suppressors, they did something. I need time to heal." "Time's the one thing we don't have," Maya muttered, checking her tactical display. The corporate ships were trying to box them in, herding them toward a massive debris field. Standard pursuit tactics, use the environment to limit the target's escape options. But Maya hadn't survived 15 years of military service by being predictable. "Hold on to something," she warned, then killed the main engines. The Starcatcher went dark, momentum carrying them straight toward a massive chunk of twisted metal. Kira's fingers dug into her seat, but she didn't make a sound. The patrol ships hesitated, probably thinking the Starcatcher had suffered engine failure. That moment of uncertainty was all Maya needed. She fired the emergency thrusters in short, precise bursts, using the debris field's gravitational eddies to slingshot them around the larger pieces. The maneuver would have been impossible in a larger ship, but the Starcatcher was small and agile. They emerged behind their pursuers, who were still trying to figure out where their quarry had gone. Maya allowed herself a small smile as she diverted power to the main engines. The Starcatcher shot forward, leaving the confused patrol ship scrambling to catch up. That was. Kira paused, searching for the right word. "Impressive." "That was desperate," Maya corrected, though she appreciated the compliment. "But we're not clear yet. Those ships have better engines, they'll catch up eventually. We need somewhere to hide, make repairs." She studied her NAV charts, looking for options. "The Amaranth Nebula," Kira suggested suddenly. When Maya glanced at her questioningly, she continued, "The radiation interferes with standard sensors. It's how my people used to hide, during the war." Maya had heard stories about Kira's species, the Lumini, but most were just rumors. They'd appeared briefly during the corporate wars, their technological and telepathic abilities making them highly sought after. Then they'd vanished, presumably wiped out. Now Maya knew better, they hadn't all died. Some, like Kira, had been captured, hidden away in secret facilities. The nebula was risky. The same radiation that would hide them would also play havoc with their own systems. But right now, risky was better than certain capture. Plotting course for the Amaranth Nebula, Maya confirmed, making the calculations. But while we're running, want to tell me what Nexus Dynamics wanted with you? Those weren't regular security forces back there. Kira was quiet for a long moment, her crystalline patterns shifting with emotion. They wanted to understand how we connect, she finally said. Not just with each other, but with technology. My people, we can interface directly with machines, enhance their capabilities. The corporations thought they could use that ability, replicate it somehow. Her voice grew distant. They were wrong. The connection isn't something you can steal or copy. It has to be freely given, has to be built on trust. Like what you did back on the station? Maya asked, remembering the incredible sensation of their minds working in harmony. Kira nodded. That was just a fraction of what's possible. With time, with trust. She trailed off as new alerts flashed across the console. The patrol ships had figured out their trajectory. Time and trust, Maya mused, pushing the engines harder. Well, we've got about 6 hours until we reach the nebula. That's time. As for trust. She glanced at Kira and made a decision. I've got some stories of my own to share. Ever wonder how a military pilot ended up running salvage in the outer sectors? As they raced toward the nebula's concealing clouds, Maya began to tell her story. It was a tale of betrayal, of corporations corrupting everything they touched, of one soldier's decision to walk away from it all. With each word, she could feel something building between them, not the overwhelming connection of their mental link, but something equally powerful. Trust, freely given. Behind them, the patrol ships closed the distance inch by inch. Ahead lay the Amaranth Nebula, its swirling colors promising either sanctuary or destruction. And in the Starcatcher's cockpit, two fugitives from different worlds found something neither expected, understanding. The nebula grew larger in their viewport, its radiation already beginning to affect their instruments. Maya fought to keep the ship steady as the first tendrils of energized gas swept over their hull. This was the point of no return. Ready? She asked, both hands tight on the controls. Kira's patterns pulsed with determination. Ready. The Starcatcher plunged into the nebula's embrace, and somewhere in that cosmic storm, a human and a Lumini prepared to make their stand. The chase wasn't over, but for the first time since their escape began, they had something more valuable than a plan. They had hope. The Amaranth Nebula painted the Starcatcher's cockpit in shades of purple and gold, its swirling gases creating patterns that reminded Maya of the markings on Kira's skin. They'd been hiding in the nebula for 3 days, making repairs when possible, staying ahead of the corporate hunters who refused to give up the chase. But it wasn't the pursuing ships that worried Maya anymore. It was the data crystal in her hand, salvaged from the research station during their escape. She'd finally managed to decrypt it, and its contents had kept her awake for the past 6 hours. They're going to start a war, Maya said, breaking the silence. Kira looked up from where she'd been meditating, her galaxy-filled eyes questioning. Nexus Dynamics. The experiments they were doing on you, it wasn't just about understanding your abilities. They're planning to use them as a weapon. Maya projected the decrypted files onto the main screen. Technical diagrams, military assessments, and deployment scenarios filled the display. They've been developing a way to artificially replicate Lumini abilities. Not just the technological interface, but the telepathic connections. They want to create weapons that can be controlled by thought, ships that respond to mental commands. That's impossible, Kira said, but her voice wavered. Our abilities can't be replicated. They come from our connection to each other, to the universe itself. They know that. That's why they needed you. Maya's hands clenched into fists. They're not trying to copy your abilities. They're planning to harvest them. The facility we found you in, it wasn't the only one. There are more hidden stations, more captured Lumini. They're going to use your people as living processors, connecting them to their weapons systems. Kira's crystalline patterns flared with horror. No, my people chose to vanish rather than let our abilities be used for war. We saw what the corporations would do with such power. And they've spent the last decade hunting down every survivor they could find. Maya stood, pacing the small cockpit. The files mention something called Project Nexus. They're building a fleet of neural-linked warships. Once it's ready, they'll use it to take control of the major trade routes, maybe even challenge the Galactic Concord itself. A sudden alert from the ship's sensors interrupted them. Maya rushed back to the controls, checking the readings. Multiple ships entering the nebula. Heavy signatures, warships. They found us? Kira asked, moving to the co-pilot's seat. No, Maya's voice was grim. They're not looking for us. This is a test run. They're using the nebula's radiation to mask their fleet movements. She pulled up the tactical display, showing at least a dozen capital ships moving into formation. Project Nexus is already starting. Kira's patterns pulsed with increasing intensity. I can feel them, she whispered. My people, they're in pain. The neural links, they're being forced to connect. Maya faced a choice. They could stay hidden, use the nebula's cover to slip away while the fleet was distracted. Find somewhere far away to hide. But as she looked at Kira, saw the anguish in her alien features, she knew running wasn't an option. The fleet's command ship, Maya said, studying the tactical display. That's where they'll be keeping the control systems, and probably the captured Lumini. If we could get aboard. It would be suicide, Kira said, but her eyes showed a spark of hope. Their security will be strongest there. Maybe not. Maya pulled up the decrypted files again. These ship designs, they're based on old military platforms. I flew missions against them during the corporate wars. I know their weaknesses. She looked at Kira intently. But we'd need your abilities at full strength. No holding back. Kira was quiet for a moment, her patterns shifting with complex emotions. The kind of connection you're suggesting, it would be deeper than before. You would see everything. All that they did to me, all that I am. And you'd see all of me, Maya replied. The good and the bad. The things I did during the war, the reasons I left the military. Everything. The nebula's light played across their faces as they considered the magnitude of what they were proposing. This wouldn't be like their escape from the station, a temporary enhancement of Maya's abilities. This would be a true melding of minds, human and Lumini working as one. If we succeed, Kira said slowly, we'll save my people. But if we fail, we'll make sure Project Nexus fails with us. Maya's voice was steel. I've seen what happens when corporations get their hands on weapons they don't understand. I won't let it happen again. Kira stood, her crystalline patterns blazing with newfound strength. Then let me show you what a true Lumini connection feels like. She extended her hand, and Maya took it without hesitation. The moment their fingers touched, the universe exploded in Maya's mind. She saw a crystal city under 3 moons, felt the joy of minds connecting in harmony, experienced the terror of capture and experimentation. She felt Kira experiencing her own memories, the thrill of combat flying, the betrayal of discovering her military superiors were corrupt, the lonely freedom of her salvage years. When their minds settled into sync, Maya opened her eyes to a changed world. The nebula's radiation patterns became clear as day, showing safe paths through the chaos. The Starcatcher's systems melded with her consciousness, the ship becoming an extension of her will. And through it all, Kira's presence flowed like starlight, turning two minds into something greater than either. "Ready?" Maya asked, though the word was barely necessary now. She could feel Kira's determination matching her own. The Starcatcher's engines hummed to life, powered by both technology and telepathic enhancement. Ahead lay a Nexus Dynamics battle fleet and whatever defenses protected their command ship. But for the first time since this journey began, Maya felt truly prepared for the fight ahead. Because she wasn't fighting alone anymore. She and Kira were about to show Nexus Dynamics exactly what happened when you underestimated the power of trust, friendship, and the unbreakable bond between two souls united against injustice. The final battle was about to begin. The Nexus Dynamics command ship loomed before them, a behemoth of dark metal and pulsing energy fields. Through their shared consciousness, Maya and Kira could feel the pain of the captured Lamini, their forced connections to the ship's systems creating a discordant symphony in the void. "This ends today," Maya thought, the words flowing through their mental link. The Starcatcher moved like a living thing, enhanced by Kira's abilities and Maya's piloting skills. They had one chance at this, one moment to strike before the fleet realized they were there. The command ship's hangar shield shimmered, designed to keep unauthorized vessels out. But with Kira's connection to technology and Maya's military knowledge, they saw what others couldn't, the fractional delay between power cycles, a weakness built into the original design. They timed it perfectly. The Starcatcher slipped through the shield during the millisecond it took to reset, their enhanced reactions making the impossible possible. They landed hard but controlled, the ship's systems already interfacing with the command vessel's network through Kira's abilities. "Security forces incoming," Maya observed through their shared awareness. "But something's wrong. They're moving too slowly." The other Lamini, Kira's thoughts held a mix of hope and pain. "They sense us. They're fighting back in whatever ways they can, disrupting the ship's systems. They move through the corridors like ghosts, their merged consciousness allowing them to predict and avoid most of the security teams. Those they couldn't avoid, they dealt with swiftly." Maya's combat training combined with Kira's telepathic abilities made them nearly unstoppable. But as they approached the central control chamber, they felt a new presence. A mind unlike the others, twisted and enhanced by artificial means. "Director Graves," Kira's mental voice trembled slightly. He was the one who ordered the experiments. He had them put implants in his brain, trying to replicate our abilities." The doors to the control chamber opened, revealing a scene from a nightmare. The room was circular, its walls lined with containment pods. In each pod, a Lamini hung suspended, their crystalline patterns pulsing weakly as their powers were siphoned into the ship's systems. At the center stood a man who was more machine than human, neural interfaces covering half his face. "Fascinating," Director Graves said, his voice carrying synthetic undertones. "I wondered if any had escaped our collection efforts. And now you've brought us a human subject as well. The neural synchronization you're achieving, remarkable." Maya felt Kira's rage and grief at seeing her people enslaved, the emotions flowing through their connection like fire. But with it came something else, determination, and a plan. "You fundamentally misunderstand us," Kira projected, her thoughts reaching not just Maya and Graves, but every Lamini in the chamber. "Our connection cannot be forced or stolen. It must be freely given, born of trust and understanding." A quaint belief, Graves smiled, neural interfaces glowing. "But we've proven otherwise. Your people power our fleet. Soon, we'll reshape the galaxy." "No," Maya thought, understanding Kira's plan. "You've built your weapon on a foundation of lies. Let us show you what real connection looks like." Through their merged consciousness, Maya and Kira reached out to the imprisoned Lamini. Not with force or control, but with compassion, sharing their experiences, their trust, their bond. The response was immediate and overwhelming. One by one, the Lumini awakened fully, their patterns blazing with renewed strength. The forced neural links began to shatter as artificial control gave way to willing cooperation. The ship's systems, designed to channel stolen power, couldn't handle the surge of freely given energy. "What are you doing?" Graves stumbled as his neural interfaces sparked. "Stop them." But it was too late. The combined consciousness of every Lumini in the chamber, led by Kira and anchored by Maya's unwavering presence, surged through the ship's systems. Warning alarms blared as power conduits overloaded. The artificial neural networks, built to enslave, crumbled under the weight of true connection. The fleet, Maya observed through their shared awareness. The other ships. The effect was cascading through the neural networks, spreading to every vessel in Project Nexus. Throughout the fleet, imprisoned Lumini were awakening, their combined power overwhelming the control systems. Graves screamed as his neural interfaces burned out, the backlash of failing systems sending him crashing to the floor. Around the chamber, containment pods opened as their power failed. The Lumini were free. Maya felt Kira's consciousness guiding the others, showing them safe paths to escape pods and auxiliary craft. Through their connection, she could sense the Project Nexus fleet falling into chaos as its stolen power source turned against it. "We need to go," Maya thought as the command ship systems began to fail catastrophically. "The reactor can't handle the power surge." They ran for the Starcatcher, their merged consciousness allowing them to navigate the disintegrating vessel with perfect precision. Behind them, decades of corporate greed and cruelty began to tear itself apart. The Starcatcher launched just as the command ship's reactor went critical. The explosion lit up the nebula like a newborn star, the shockwave carrying them to safety. Throughout the sector, Project Nexus vessels were going dark, their crews abandoning ship as their stolen power source fled. Hours later, when they were safely away, Maya and Kira finally allowed their mental connection to fade. The separation was gentle, like waking from a dream, leaving behind not emptiness but a deeper understanding. "Where will your people go?" Maya asked, watching the last of the escape pods disappear into the nebula's depths. Kira's patterns pulsed with quiet joy. "There are places the corporations will never find, sanctuaries we've prepared. But first." She turned to Maya, her galaxy-filled eyes holding a question. "There are more facilities out there, more of my people held captive. Will you help us free them?" Maya smiled, remembering the profound connection they'd shared, the trust they'd built. "I told you before, as far as it takes." The Starcatcher turned deeper into space, carrying its crew of 2 toward new adventures. Behind them, the Amaranth Nebula swirled with new colors, as if celebrating the victory of connection over control, of trust over power, of freedom over fear. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, corporations and governments alike would soon learn a valuable lesson: some bonds can't be forced, some powers can't be stolen, and some lights can never be caged.